Hi everyone, thanks for watching. This week's adventure was to a site in Salem, New Hampshire called America's Stonehenge, or formerly known as Mystery Hill. The site is said to be over 4,000 years old, so that would make it the oldest known man-made structure in New England, actually in all of America. There is debate on who made this site and why. There have been inscriptions found at the site that are said to be Ogham, which were medieval Celtic people, Phoenician script, and also Iberian Punic script. And these inscriptions were studied by Dr. Barry Fell of Harvard University. And I am not questioning Dr. Fell or making any accusations. However, I have major trust issues with archaeology in New England, and I would just like to see some other people take a look at those inscriptions and let us know what they think. Personally, I tend to think that stonework in New England is just indigenous, but I will admit there are some things here that are strange that you don't typically see, but there are other things that are very typical of indigenous stonework here that you see throughout New England. The stone walls on the site look indigenous. There's also what we would call Manitou stones all over the place here. It was even believed for a short time that colonial people made this site, which has been disproven essentially. So this is the oracle chamber that I'm about to walk into, and there is my son, who I dragged along today because he's out of school for this summer. This is the oracle chamber. A weird feature here is that there are some interesting acoustics here. If you are talking in this chamber, it projects out to what they call the sacrificial chamber, or excuse me, the sacrificial table, which is outside, which we'll see in a second. But that is not something I've seen in New England. You do hear about things like that in ancient Greece, so that's definitely interesting. And here we have the sacrificial chambers, or sacrificial table I was just talking about. You can see the grooves. Those are thought to have channeled blood. They are not sure if it was animal or human sacrifices. That's not something you hear about with any New England tribe. And again, that's just, that's speculation. But that is what it appears to be. I don't have any other explanation for what that is. There is also a little spot in the bedrock, which seems to be a nook for maybe a vase to collect the blood. At the bottom, you have that groove that goes off the table. Not sure I can think of what else this would have been used for. And around the site, they have an astronomical trail. And this is where you have those big standing stones that mark the solstice spots, essentially. These stones have been there for 4,000 years and are still standing. I have watched some documentaries that kind of explain how they were carved and anchored in, and it is quite impressive. It was also an absolutely gorgeous day when we were there. Yeah, we've had that heat wave here. It was a little bit more on the cooler side. Nice breeze in the shade was absolutely gorgeous. You can see there, this whole area is just absolutely beautiful. And I was impressed by the size of the site. There was not just one stone chamber. It was the entire site was just completely covered in stone walls, standing stones, and then you have that central chamber complex. Obviously, this was extremely important to someone, or they were extremely bored. I've never done this out of boredom. But this stone I thought was interesting. The letter markers in the previous pictures are from they have an app that you can download, and they'll give you information about each one of those markers. This one was not marked. Split boulders are very prevalent in New England, and it was something that Indigenous people did. It can happen naturally, but generally when you see it at sites with other stonework, it's less likely to be natural. And this one was not marked at all, which I kind of thought was a little bit telling about how they look at it. But this site is open to the public. I think it was $18 for an adult to get in. I highly recommend going and checking it out. And while I don't see why this isn't just an Indigenous site at all, I will be interviewing Dennis Stone, who was the owner, whose father owned it before him, and whose son has made some very interesting alignment discoveries there. So we'll see if he changes my mind at all when I talk to him.